Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey, good afternoon everybody. It's Sunday. It's Militia Man and Crew, and we've had quite a busy week. It's been awesome. Last Thursday I had that video audio with AG1. I was really a big hit. Everybody seemed to enjoy that, which was fantastic. We had a question and answers that we did on Friday. That was amazing. We had a lot of people in Patreon with the Discord chat room that was there to get those questions and answers live. It was fascinating. So a lot of people really enjoyed that, and everybody here on YouTube is welcome to come, just like all the Patreon members that bring this to you guys with all that news from Samson and the great help that we get from Gigi and all the crew members, Pompey Peter, Petra, Day Trader, Sunkissed. Many people are in our group that come and help support us, so please enjoy. Hey, listen, the Arab Monetary Fund today, today's the 17th, they've organized a meeting. I believe it's the 47th session. They're there in Algeria. It's all the central banks, the Arab Monetary Fund, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund. They're all there. But the interesting thing about this whole thing is that those key players, the key players that are like the Arab League of States, the Union of Arab Banks, the Union of Arab Securities Commissions, the Financial Action Task Force, again, the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank are in Algeria today, and they're talking about monetary policies in the Middle East. And interestingly enough, that what you don't see in this particular meeting is the Central Bank of Iraq. I found it very interesting in that respect, because the fact is that Moshan al-Alaq, he is the central bank governor of the Central Bank of Iraq, and he was at one point, I think, the vice president and the president of the Arab Monetary Fund. And he's not, Central Bank of Iraq is not there today. Why is that? Well, if you go back in a little bit of history, we go back to August, they showcased the Central Bank of Iraq, and they showcased it in a manner that is, they were talking about the currencies, they were talking about the history, and the development of the bank and the finishing of that construction. And we talked about this. We talked about the fact that the architect, for instance, is a woman, and the architect of the 2023, 2024, 25 budget, Taif Sami, she's an architect in her own way with the tripartite budget. We had the U.S. Assistant Secretary of Treasury, Elizabeth Rosenberg, in town, a woman, and during a religious holiday prior to, which is fascinating in and of itself. But it said here that there was only a few meters left of the exterior facade of the central bank building, and so they were about ready to complete it. So it's interesting that the Central Bank of Iraq is not at this meeting today in Algeria. We have the Prime Minister of the country of Iraq going to the United States of America, into New York City. The foreign minister, Fahud Hussein, is already there. There's going to be a lot of meetings. You guys realize this, because this UN assembly goes on for quite a few days. It starts tomorrow on the 18th, and it goes all the way out to the 23rd, and then again on a final day on the 26th. But Iraq is going to showcase themselves this next Friday. And so during this time frame, we had some key components that were needed to be sorted, and we've been talking about this for a while, is that the 23, 24, 25 tripartite budget has not been spending any money, hasn't allocated any money. But look, the whole situation here with this budget is that they haven't started spending any money, and that's going to be resolved. But I'd like to go back, before I get to that, not to be a sidebar, but look, It says here that al-Sudani decides to involve the World Bank in auditing the designs of the development project. So let's take a little step back and say, well, what is he doing? He's basically, the Prime Minister, Shia al-Sudani, has directed the World Bank to be involved with auditing the designs of the Development Road Project. And during his chairmanship of the third meeting of this Supreme Committee for implementing the Development Road Project, they've got this thing started. They're going to do this. And that's what that tripartite budget's about. That's why I think that there's a portion of this system that the salaries of the Kurdistan region haven't been paid yet. They needed to get things sorted all at the same time, because this is going to be a one-stop shop, if you will, when it comes to payments of salaries. A unified treasury account, we're going to have a unified system. Everybody's going to get paid at the same time when it comes to the country. But here it is, they're talking about the discussion to the extent of the impact of international road projects. They're using the key word, it's international road projects. It's not going to just be this internal circumstance. It's going to be external, and it's going to be implemented in the region. And it says that the Development Road Project, they discuss projects and their working strategy. They're talking about the economic model that was been presented, and they have consulting teams that have been contracted. So they've had people in the process. They've been doing all this. And so this is the beginning of the showcasing of Iraq coming into fruition. Back to that central bank, they were talking about the finalization of the skin, effectively, of the external part of that building. They only had a few meters left to finish, and that was back in August. Well, here we are, we're heading into October, and they could have that finished. Again, the Algeria meetings, all the central banks, it's the World Bank, the IMF, all the central banks. Alak was the head of those, and he's not there right now. Well, what's he doing now that's so important that he's not there? Think about that. That's where I'm going with it. It says here the Prime Minister stressed the necessity of launching the first step of implementation of setting strategies and clarifying the ideas of the project to the countries contributing to it, stressing the importance of reflecting the impact of the project in various activities in Iraq from the economic, industrial, service, and social aspects. So if you think about all of those things, that's directly related to all conclusive what's going on in a rebuild of the country. It says that al-Sudani stated today that the Development Road Project will provide an integrated transportation network and will be a global marketing gateway for the products of the industrial cities that will be established on the road, in addition to creating new investment growth poles. So think about it, heavy words, global marketing gateway. What else can you say? Creating new investment, right? That's the whole point of this whole thing. And it's right here in front of us, so everybody really should be thinking about those terms and conditions to be just perfect for Iraq to go international, setting that stage for, they have the salaries paid, they have an agreement paid. It almost sounds like they have their, without saying it, they have the hydrocarbon law, looks like to be sorted. I'm assuming we're probably going to see wording to that effect here in the next few days or at any time. But ultimately, there was agreements with the Kurdistan region, and I think we'll get to that. In this particular article, it says the parliamentary finance was kind of, against our country, in respect to putting pressure on the central bank. Well, probably they did have been putting pressure on the central bank. The central bank has an obligation to do some specific things. If you're going to go international and you're going to be part of the global financial system, you're going to need some pressure to make sure you're doing things properly, make sure you're doing things right. You've had to weed out corruption. You've had all these different things that need to be taken care of. So it's not a laughing matter. Bottom line is that we are part of this whole system. Whether anyone likes it or not, the United States of America has a big hand in this. We do try to work out things, weed out the corruption. It's in the banking and financial systems, at least. Okay, so we'll see how this turns out. The American dominance over the work of the central bank, they're saying, it needs to be consistent with the visions of the Federal Reserve and the American Treasury. Basically, there are efforts being made by the Central Bank of Iraq to reach remittances throughout the world. So here, that's perfectly stated that the Central Bank of Iraq is trying to reach out to not just their internal aspect, but they're reaching out to the merchants to do remittances throughout the world. It's aside from that pressure, depending on who writes the articles, the bottom line is that Al-Alaq, he's been around, he's been at the IMF for years. He was a central bank governor prior to. He has his name on his signature on the currency. So you got to say that there's a plan here. It's basically pretty obvious, and it looks really, really good. The what today, like for instance, it says an Iraqi human rights center describes the internet shutdown as a government confusion. So what happened today? You had some articles that came out. There was 3 of them, and the first one says Iraq cuts off the internet service in the morning for a few days, and basically what it's coming down to is that the Iraqi Ministry of Communications announced on Sunday the interruption of internet services for a few hours in accordance with the director of the Council of Ministers. That's the Council of Ministers. That's not who's supposed to do that. It says the official spokesman, the Ministry of Communications, in his statement basically is saying the Council of Ministers directed the internet service to be cut off from 4 to 7 in the morning on the 17th today through the 28th for 11 days basically. In the next one it says the Council of Ministers directs the cutoff of the internet services, and it says here it goes and says the Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani directed, quote, the internet service in Iraq be cut off for a period of 11 days, coinciding with the second round of exams for the 6th grade middle school. So they're going to shut down the internet around the country, in this particular case, the 6th grade middle school testing. I don't think that's what happened here. I think that they're probably doing something significantly different. But anyway, here this gentleman says, it says, the Center for Rights and Press Freedoms described on Sunday that the internet shut down during the period of the ministerial exams for the second round at the expense of the constitutionally and legally guaranteed rights of others, as pointing out that it's government confusion. So if you go to that article and you read it, you get that in Patreon, you're going to be amazed to find that, look, these guys have basically complained in a press statement that cutting off the internet has caused confusion in the processing of communicating with examination centers abroad. This guy is the head of the education system. Those are the guys that are supposed to be talking about this. This is not something the Minister of the Education would probably get with the Minister of the Interior for the dates and times of these things to happen. Not the Council of Ministers and not the Prime Minister. And it's fascinating. So if you guys look at it this way, what we're going to see is that we're going to see more articles about this and clearing it up, or you're going to say, well, is this like a camouflage, if you will, for something bigger in a protection environment for that the ISX, stock exchanges, big businesses, everything. If there's going to be a huge exchange rate change, they're going to need to try to defend that and try to take care of it. So we'll see how that turns out the next couple of days. But that's what was going on yesterday and today. And here this thing is that Barzani, he announces an agreement with al-Sudani to secure the salaries of the region. I just went over that. He's basically announced today that on the 17th, that an agreement was reached with the Prime Minister to secure the salaries of the region's employees. So basically all this time we've been waiting for that 23, 24, 25 budget to be able to pay salaries, not only for the central region of the country, but they also for the Kurdistan region. They say they have come to an agreement. It doesn't say when they were able to defend it or spend it. I'm sorry, but he says we were able to defend the rights of the people of Kurdistan, and we reached a fruitful agreement with the federal prime minister today to secure those salaries, and he thanks their compatriots for their patience, their steadfastness, and confidence in that the government could get it done. So we see all that's happening today. So is that the so-called hydrocarbon law? Is that the oil and gas circumstance that they've decided to defend? Because what are we talking about here? If you're going to get salaries and you're going to get unified payments, you're going to get all the things that you need at the same time. That was one of the main focuses, is that they weren't getting paid at the same time. They want to make sure that they get that. And I'm going to go into the last three videos that I talked about, but the bottom line is that there was issues between or how much power the Kurdistan region has. Do they have a parliament? They don't. All those kinds of things come into play here, but it looks like this particular case is that they came to the table today on the September 17th, preceding al-Sudani going to New York tomorrow for a week to cut deals. Maybe we'll see how that turns out. And then lastly, it says here all the internet services and all those things that we just got through talking about should be we'll find out if they get cut off or if they don't. But if in the meantime, ultimately, everything that we've been seeing and what I just shared with you guys is showing that Iraq is going to have a big week. Al-Sudani is said to arrive in New York on the 18th. I would imagine there's going to be sideline deals, because if you look at the lineup from the UN, all the countries that are there, they have specific time frames that they're going to speak, and Iraq is slated for Friday, the 22nd. And so at this stage of the game, if Iraq is showcasing themselves at the UN and the shackles come off from the UN, because effectively that's where it got started, in my opinion. They're talking about showcasing their central bank. Central bank had only a few meters left to be completed. So my view is that the central bank is ready to probably open soon. There's word out that the central bank is going to have meetings on Monday. I would like to say that if that's the case, why are they having the meetings? Are they having training meetings? Are they going to ongoing for, and what purposes? It's said that they could be for the international policies and procedures, and if that's the case, obviously that's another sign that Iraq is coming out to the world, everybody, and we're going to be a part of it, and I'm really excited to see it. So thank you very much. Hey, for all you new folks, please hit that like button and help support us. You have plenty of options. Thank you. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.